You wake up one morning, and the air feels heavier somehow. The same ceiling. The same light filtering through the curtains. But something in you is different, something you can't quite name. You go through the motions, make your coffee, check your phone, smile at the mirror, yet the reflection looks like a stranger performing your life. Everything that once felt safe now feels slightly off. The conversations sound hollow. Your laughter comes a second too late. Your dreams, the ones you built everything around, don't stir your heart the way they used to. And you whisper to yourself, "What's wrong with me?" But maybe nothing is wrong. Maybe something inside you is finally waking up. Carl Jung called this feeling the first sign of individuation, the soul's quiet rebellion against a life that no longer fits. He believed that before we find ourselves, we lose the image we built to survive. The roles. The stories. The pleasing masks. One day they start to crack, not because you failed them, but because your deeper self can no longer breathe inside them. It begins gently, like a faint restlessness beneath ordinary days. You start to question what once felt certain. You feel drawn to silence, to distance, to meaning you can't explain to anyone. And the world starts to notice. People say, "You've changed." And you smile softly, because you know they're right, but you don't yet know into what. Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." He meant that awakening isn't a sunrise of bliss, it's a dismantling. The soul doesn't expand through comfort. It grows by shedding skins. Each piece of life that feels wrong is not a mistake, it's a message. Something deeper whispering, "You've outgrown this." You try to resist it. You tell yourself to be grateful. You force yourself to fit again. But resistance only deepens the ache. Because the soul is relentless in its honesty. It will not let you stay small forever. When the outer life becomes too tight, the inner life begins to break through the seams. This is the moment when many feel lost. But lost is only the name the ego gives to transformation. Nothing outside changed, but the you who was living it has started to dissolve. You're shedding an old version of yourself that once kept you safe. And that's why it hurts. Safety is being replaced by truth. You find yourself longing for solitude. Not because you dislike people, but because the noise of the world feels too sharp for your fragile becoming. In silence, you start to hear the faint hum of something real, a voice that doesn't shout, but waits. Jung would call it the self, the wholeness within us that patiently waits beneath the masks. He taught that the psyche has its own rhythm and intelligence. When the ego drifts too far from that center, the unconscious begins to correct it. Through dreams, through emotions, through the quiet sense of wrongness. That uneasy feeling is the compass of the soul pulling you back toward truth. At first, it feels like breaking. But really, it's remembering. The life you built served you once. But now it no longer mirrors who you've become. You can't keep dancing to old music once you've heard a deeper song. Many people mistake this phase for depression, or failure, or spiritual regression. But Jung saw it differently. He said the soul demands growth, and growth always begins with friction. The ache you feel is not emptiness. It's space being made for something larger to move through you. Sometimes, it shows up as fatigue. You're tired, not in your body, but in your being. Tired of pretending. Tired of playing roles. Tired of silencing your truth to fit a world that never fit you. And yet, underneath that tiredness, something alive stirs, quietly waiting for your permission. You might not notice it at first. It appears in subtle moments, when you stand by a window and feel both longing and peace. When music suddenly moves you to tears for reasons you can't explain. When a dream stays with you all morning, its symbols whispering of change. These are not random. They're the soul's language. Jung said the unconscious communicates through symbols and feeling, not logic. And when it wants your attention, it will use whatever it must, discomfort, coincidence, even heartbreak, to wake you up. Everything familiar starts to feel wrong because your life is preparing to become right. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Prepared to meet the one within you who has been waiting all along, the authentic self that doesn't need to perform to belong. For now, it may still feel unclear. You may want to rush to answers. But awakening is not a race. It's a slow undoing. The mind wants clarity. The soul wants truth. And truth takes its time. So let yourself drift a little. Let the familiar dissolve. Let the old you rest. This in-between, this strange, quiet confusion is sacred ground. It's the soil where the new self begins to grow. When everything familiar starts to feel wrong, it's not the end of your story. It's the place where truth begins to breathe again. The life you've known was only the first chapter, the part you were strong enough to live before you understood who you are. Now the story is turning. The old plot no longer fits the character you've become. And the pages feel heavy in your hands. You may feel as if the world has dimmed. But that dimming is the light drawing inward, back to its source. Jung wrote that the self is always seeking to unite what has been divided. The soul calls us home by unraveling everything false we've clung to. It doesn't destroy to punish. It destroys to rebuild. In the middle of that rebuilding, you will crave answers, and none will come. You will search for direction, and every sign will blur. It is meant to. The path of transformation requires the blindness of trust. The ego wants a map, the soul offers mystery. Sometimes, what feels like silence is actually communication in a new language. When doors close, when energy fades, when the old roads crumble, you are being asked to stop moving outward and start listening inward. Listen to your dreams. They are letters from the unconscious. Symbols of everything the surface self cannot yet say. Listen to your body. Every tension, every breath, is the psyche trying to speak through form. Listen to your emotions. They are not enemies to be fixed, but messages from the parts of you still unloved. And above all, listen to the quiet moments between thought, the places where intuition lives. That whisper you keep ignoring, that pull you can't explain, that's the self guiding you home. When Jung spoke of individuation, he didn't mean becoming perfect. He meant becoming whole. To make peace with the shadow. To sit beside your fears instead of running from them. To hold both light and darkness and call them both mine. Healing begins the moment you stop trying to return to who you were before the change began. That person was beautiful, but temporary. A necessary dream on the way to waking up. You are allowed to outgrow even your favorite version of yourself. It's strange, isn't it? How loneliness can feel holy once you stop fighting it. At first, solitude feels like exile. But slowly, it becomes a sanctuary. You begin to sense life moving through you again, not as noise, but as pulse. The same stillness that once scared you now feels like peace wearing silence. If you're new here, welcome, stay with me for a moment. Because what you're walking through right now, the wrongness, the confusion, the letting go, is the very doorway to awakening. Every soul must pass through this threshold. It's how we trade illusion for truth. You don't need to know what comes next. You only need to say yes to what is leaving and what is arriving. The soul already knows the way. The mind just needs to stop arguing. You will start noticing small resurrections. A new idea. A feeling of peace without reason. A sudden gratitude for nothing in particular. These are the signs that the inner light is returning, not as the old sun, but as a gentler dawn within you. And one day, you'll wake up, look around, and realize that everything familiar has changed again, but this time, it feels right. Because it finally reflects the truth that lives inside you. You're no longer chasing meaning. You're embodying it. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You've been walking toward that privilege all along. Every ache, every doubt, every empty space was a classroom for your becoming. Now, there's a calm waiting for you, not the peace of nothing happening, but the peace of everything aligning. The shadow no longer frightens you. The past no longer defines you. The uncertainty no longer feels like loss, it feels like possibility. When everything familiar felt wrong, you thought life was breaking. But now you see, it was rearranging itself to fit your soul's truth. That's what awakening really is. Not a thunderclap, but a steady light returning to the center of your being. So breathe. You made it through the fire. You kept walking even when you couldn't see. And here you are, different, deeper, truer. You have not lost your way. You have lost what was never yours. Let the new you unfold slowly. No rush. No proving. No performance. Just honesty. Just presence. Just love in its quietest form. The soul doesn't want perfection. It wants participation. It wants you awake enough to see meaning even in the cracks. And now you do. You see that even wrongness had purpose. Even loss was sacred. Maybe that's what Jung meant when he said the soul speaks through symbols. Every ending was a symbol, every emptiness, a signpost. Each one pointing you back to what is real and alive inside. Everything familiar felt wrong because your spirit was ready for a more authentic world. Now, little by little, that world is finding you. In every breath, every kindness, every quiet night when you realize you're finally at peace with not knowing. Thank you for being here with me. Take care of your heart. And may love always guide your path.